And a warm welcome back, or a fresh welcome to Hungary. It's round 3 of the International GTOpen and GT Cup Open, and we've come to the Hungaroring, where top spec GT3 and GT4 machinery are about to take to the track for the first race of the weekend. We are at the historic Hungaroring, 4.3 kilometers, 2.7 miles await us round this track. Air temperature 29 degrees, as you can see. Track temperature is really ramping up throughout the day, now reaching 52 degrees, which is really having an effect on tyres and the fans, but they're going to be loving every minute of it, and we are so pleased to welcome fans back into the stands. Just a small handful allowed back in to watch the brilliant GT action we have in store for them. And if this race is going to be anything like what we saw at Spa in the last round in Belgium, then my word, are we in for some tasty battles. 14 turns, 8 right, 6 left await us. We're near the Magyar region in Hungary. It's actually ranks third amongst the tourist destinations, the Hungaroring here in Magyar, after the Danube Bend and Lake Balaton, with the GT3 lap record currently held by Nick Tandy in a Porsche 911, which is a 1:46.4. So we shall see if that can be toppled today, and we have an absolutely packed grid for you. Qualifying was quite intense, and not to say the least. It's Loris Spinelli who starts from pole, and we'll go through the GTOpen and GT Cup grid in detail a little further on. Christian Klein started on pole last time around. Unfortunately, they could only manage down in 9th for this race ahead of us. And there is a little bit of housekeeping to be done, because we have some new teams, we have some returning drivers and returning teams. We've got Olymp Racing back in action this weekend after on and off runs in the International GT Open. 2 cars in those beautiful black and orange Mercedes GT3 cars. Stanislaw Jeslinki and Christian Korzeniowski in the number 5, and then in the 777 is Marcin Jedlinski and Karol Bash racing for Olymp. And then we also have the AKM Motorsport number 14, normally occupied by Florian Schultz and Jens Lieberhausen in the AM category. That is being taken over this week by the boss, Marco Antonelli, the 56-year-old Italian, with 1 win in the GT Open as well, back in 2016. Kessel Racing is another entry, but with some returning drivers in the form of Michael Dillon and Robbie Foley, who made debut in Belgium with a fantastic podium. They're back now, this time switching to a Ferrari with Kessel Racing. And as we watch the Letner Racing Porsche with Andy Soucek at the wheel, currently leading the standings in the championship, with Al Faisal Al Zubair. Unfortunately, the Omani racing driver, Al Faisal Al Zubair, taken ill, so is unable to participate. So we send him our well wishes for a speedy recovery. He's been replaced very last minute by Ben Barker, who is from the UK, doing a bit of World Endurance Championship racing as well. Makes the step to GT Open and debut this weekend. And then to continue on, just to finish off on the GT Open, the Poro Motorsport return with Daniel Diaz Varela and Jorge Font. And Alda, and then as we enter the GT Cup, and we're on board with one of the new entries, it is Alda Motorsport who enter another car. This is the number 33 with Tomasz Magdziarz and Dan Pidgey. The Polish team with Tomasz as the Polish driver and Dan Pidgel as the driver from the Netherlands, racing in that number 33 Alda Motorsport car. And then we also have the Kane Racing team who've entered the number 45. Alongside Eugenio Pisani will be Mark Spikovas and Peter Carpi for the 45. They've inverted the colours on that one, so Eugenio Pisani's Kane Racing is sort of blue and white, and there it is. And then the new entry, 45, is reversed on that, so the main colour is white with light blue stripes. So that should just about take you up to date as well. We are down, unfortunately, the Inception Racing McLaren, the number 72, with Nick Moss and Joe Osborne, suffered a big crash at the wheel of that last time out in Belgium for Nick Moss, who unfortunately has some back injuries from that. So still recovering, so unfortunately they will not be racing this weekend, but we do have the other Inception Racing car, of course, of Brendan Irebe and Ollie Milroy. Ollie Milroy, the second of the Pro-Ams, currently 5th overall. Back on boards with our Polish team. A lot of Polish entries, a lot of Polish drivers this weekend. There's a strong Polish contingency always in Hungary, because it's only about 530 kilometers away, which is an 8-hour drive if you fancy it. If you want to walk it, it's 6 days, or you can just catch a flight. It's an hour and a half. I know, which I know is easier said than done these days. But a really strong Polish contingent here. It's not very difficult to get to for the Polish fans, so they're coming out in full force to support. But there is your pole sitter, Loris Spinelli, who is normally alongside Alexander Moiseev, the Russian driver, but unfortunately has been diagnosed with COVID-19, unfortunately, so he's recovering from that. He has been replaced by Gianluca Giraldi, just in front of Frederick Schandorf in the VSR Lamborghini. He shares that with Michaela Beretta. And there are your current championship leaders. Andy Soucek will take the start in the Porsche Lettner racing car. From 3rd, alongside, as I say, newcomer Ben Barker, who will get into that car at the pit stops. Yuki Nomoto managed 4th in the 2nd of the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghinis. He shares that car with Baptiste Moulin, who the Belgian will get in for the Japanese racer during the pit stops. And here is Ollie Milroy. Last time out, he was the pole sitter in Belgium. Really good run as well for Ollie Milroy in that Inception McLaren, which went well round there. Still finding some good pace as well here in Hungary. Curiously, ahead of the number 11 car, Marcus Pavarud, who finds himself in 6th, and just noticed there, we saw that in qualifying, some sort of splatter on the front wing, which we're not sure what it is. So we need to do a bit more investigating there and find out for you, because still unsure as to what that could be. But Marcus Pavarud going from 6th, just ahead of Gerhard Twereza in 7th, who didn't make the first round for HP Racing International, but joined last time out for Belgium. And once again lines up alongside his teammate in the form of Jan Seifert. And there is one of our new entries. And the two drivers just giving each other a last bit of advice. As there's another one, Christian Kleen, former F1 driver, holding the door open for his teammate, Patrick Kaprinski, letting a bit of last-minute air in, because it gets very hot in these cockpits. No matter how well you direct that airflow. And that beautiful red and white Ferrari 488 GT3 at the hands of Michael Dinnan to begin with. He'll hand over to Robbie Foley. Struggled in qualifying, I think it's fair to say. Down in 10th, 4th in the Pro category. Still getting to grips with this car. A couple of spins in qualifying as well, so just finding their way a little bit more. They've got more experience with Ferrari cars as well, compared to the Aston Martin they were racing last time out. They will return with TF Sport and that Aston Martin car in Barcelona. Marco Antonelli at the wheel of the AM car, which has been going very well this season in the hands of Loris Spinelli, of Lieberhauser, I should say, and Florian Schulze. And currently in GT Cup on pole position is Artur Janos in the number 26. His first pole position with Q1 by EMG Racing, leading the way in the team standings as well. Artur Janos proving that he has got the outright pace. The Polish racer, well, I wouldn't call it a home race, but it's very close to home, of course, for him. Let's take a look. Let's take a look, though, at what happened last time out in Spa. Ollie Milroy in front in the McLaren, but just ahead of the Lamborghini and the Lettner Racing Porsche, which had to go round the outside. It was then a run down to Eau Rouge, who could hold their might. We had a big incident for Artur Janos in that Q1 EMG car. Today's pole sitter unfortunately crashed out, finding himself backwards, going up through Eau Rouge. A bit of an incident there between the two VSR cars, but able to carry on, and then the battle for the win in the GT Cup raged on too. Meanwhile, though, no one could stop the Al Faisal Al Zubair and Andy Soucek Letna Racing Porsche for taking the win in the race 1. We got going again though the next day for race 2. This time it was Adam Carroll leading the way for his second pole position ahead of Loris Spinelli, who was hounding him all the way just in front of the TF Sport Aston Martin car. This brilliant move there between Christian Klein and Marcus Pavarot up through Eau Rouge side by side as the battles raged on. Unfortunately, for Gerhard and Teresa, it ended in the wall, but it didn't for the other Lamborghini. The number 63 at the hands of Frederick Schandorf crossed the line alongside Michele Beretta to take the win just in front of their teammates at Vincenzo Sospiri Racing. But today is a new weekend, a new day, and a new pole sitter. His first time on pole, Loris Spinelli, starts from first ahead of Frederick Schandorf, who will be trying to get a third win under his belt. Andy Soucek goes from third ahead of Yuki Nomoto, the second of the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo cars. Ollie Milroy in the next row of the grid heads Marcus Pavarot in that Honda NSX GT3 Evo, goes from 6th just in front of Gerhard Teresa in 7th. Marcin Jedlinski returning to the GTOpen in the 777 car, goes from 8th. Then 9th, it's Patrick Kaprinski ahead of Michael Dinnen, making their debut with Kessel Racing. Of course, they made their debut in Belgium with TF Sport. Now, Daniel Diaz Varela, another returner, goes from 11th ahead of Marco Antonelli in 12th, who takes over the AM14 car, ahead of Giuseppe Cipriani and Stanislaw Jedlinski as well. The older of the Jedlinskis goes from 14th overall, just ahead of Arta Janos, pole position in the GT Cup, 15th overall, ahead of Tomasz Magziarz in 16th. In the GT Cup category, Jan Anton Zuski, 17th, ahead of Maciej Blazek, who currently leads the way as well in the driver's standings, hoping to improve from there. Peter Carpi as well, returning to the International GT Open, and Stefano Bozzoni lines up as the last of the runners. Up in the commentary box, my name is Harry Benjamin. It's an absolute pleasure to be alongside you. Elliot Wood here as well, and we're reaching the end of this formation lap, or just the beginning of the formation lap, I should say. It's the safety car will lead them round, and it will be a rolling start as we go on board with the Kessel Racing team making their debut. The safety car has come in. It will be Loris Spinelli who will lead them away. He has gone. It's all eyes to the lights and foot to the floor as we go racing here in Hungary for International GT Open. It is race 1 and it is Loris Spinelli leading the way. A good start for the Italian ahead of Frederick Schandorf, who's coming under pressure from Andy Soucek in that Letna Racing Porsche, flashing his lights. Meanwhile, Yuki Nomoto fancies his go round the outside. They all seemingly make their way through as well. Looks like a slow start there for one of the Q1 by ENG Motorsport cars. GT Cup, the new entry out of the Motorsport, coming a cropper there of, I think, the Olymp Racing black and orange Mercedes, having to bail out of that one. A little bit of argy-bargy coming through out of turn 1. They all seemingly find their way through. No major incidents so far. And at the end of that is Loris Spinelli leading the way ahead of Frederick Schandorf. Yuki Nomoto finds himself in third ahead of Andy Soucek. Ollie Milroy rounding out the top 5. But a great start for Loris Spinelli, leading the way in the overall category and the Pro-Am categories. We see that Vaporu Motorsport car getting a little bit out of shape there. The red, the maroon and white Mercedes entering this weekend with Daniel Diaz Varela and Jorge Font at the wheel. They make their way through this tricky complex of corners, so difficult to carry the momentum through there, especially that quick left-right chicane of 6 and 7. Very easy to clatter the curbs there and do yourself a bit of damage. As we come towards the final sector of this lap, it looks like Spinelli is able to hold on at the moment. Milroy, though, a little bit further back, fancying a look down the inside of Andy Soucek. Couldn't on that occasion. Continues his run around behind the Porsche of the Letna Racing team, on board with Michael Dinnen in the Kessel Racing machine. He's worked his way up one spot just behind Patrick Kaprinski in that JP Motorsport car. They were on pole here last time out, couldn't quite recreate that, as Loris Spinelli weaving on the straights as well in the lead, just trying to get a little bit of heat into his tyres. A 70-minute race this, we've had 2 of them already as the clock will count down. Pit stops as well to occur roughly halfway through, including fuels, tyres and drivers. So all about strategy here in the International GTOpen, as well as some brilliant on-track racing. But it is Spinelli, Shandov, Nemoto, Souček, Milroy, Pavarou, Twereza, Kaprinski, Dinin, Jedlinski, the top 10. Then it's Antonelli, Cipriani, Diaz Varela, Artianos got away from pole in the GT Cup category and has maintained that ahead of Anton Zuzki. Then it's the second for the Jedlinski cars. Blazek, Karpi in 18th ahead of Magziars and Bolzoni, rounding out the 20-strong field we have, and that looks like the JP Motorsport. Patrick Kaprinski just getting a little bit wide there as we come into turn 6 and 7. That's really allowed Michael Dinin to close up behind him and forced actually Kaprinski into a bit of a mistake. He's had to cut the end of that chicane. Dinin now all over the back of the McLaren in front of him. It is McLaren versus Ferrari, Kessel Racing versus JP Motorsport, and don't rule out that beautiful yellow and black car behind them of Olymp Racing. Jedlinski in the 777 also being brought into play here. This is the battle for 6th place, and I'm pleased to say I'm not alone in the commentary box. Elliot Wood is alongside me. Elliot, a frenetic start there. Looks like Spinelli, though, able to get a good start and hold it now with a 1.5 second lead.
Yeah, he made use of the front engine Mercedes to really get off the line well and put away the start there, because, you know, turn 1 is the danger point, really. But there are several cars actually under investigation for the procedures there, including Mr. Loris Spinelli. So it's not over yet for him regarding that first lap.
It's not over yet. It wouldn't be a racing championship without a few investigations getting underway. And let's see who the movers and shakers are. Not too many big movers. Nemoto managed to get ahead of Andy Souček, who unfortunately has lost a place from the start. He's fallen down to 4th. Jedlinski in the 777 has lost 2 spots, so that's the most out of anyone in the top 10. But holding on to Dinin and Kaprinski, that battle for 8th just coming through in the background there behind the HB International car, Lamborghini. That's number 17 of Gerhard Twereza on his own there, chasing Marcus Pavarou down in 6th. And this is the battle we're watching. They've sort of dropped Jedlinski a little bit, but it is JP Motorsport versus Kessel Racing, and Patrick Kaprinski likes to take that wider line, but if he keeps doing it with Dinin as close as he is, he's going to allow Dinin to get down the inside of him. Managed to hold him off on that occasion, but look at that, and the speed that Dinin can take through the chicane there. He made that look easy. Dinin through on Patrick Kaprinski. Dinin now up into 8th place. What a move for the Kessel Racing Ferrari driver.
Yeah, I don't think Kaprinski could have expected that. He was on one side of his mirrors, and then suddenly he
came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, alongside him on the other. So much traction, I guess, out of the chicane. But we're looking at qualifying this morning. That Ferrari was nowhere near as stable through those corners, so they must have really worked on that car, gone through the data, you know, really worked with the drivers to make sure they get the most out of it coming into the race.
I think Patrick Kaprinski as well might be struggling, because he's now fallen off Dinin and come into the clutches of Jedlinski in the 777. The younger of the Jedlinski drivers, the pole racing in the Pro-Am category of the GTOpen. He's a Porsche GT3 Central European champion. Has done some GTOpen before. Can he get a decent bit of slipstream? This is bringing Mr. Antonelli in the background nicely in as well. Marco Antonelli in the number 14 AM car, which has been going so well so far. Let's have a look, though, at the start. Again, it was a great getaway from Loris Spinelli, who left them all for dust, as it looked like Frederic Shandov really had to come across and try and defend that inside line from Andy Souček. A lot of moving in the braking zone there for Frederic Shandov. And then this is where Souček lost out, with Nemoto coming around the outside of him, just carrying a little bit more speed and then having the inside line. There was the little 3-into-1 battle in the GT Cup category. On board now with Tomasz Magziars on debut this season for the Alda Motorsport team. Comes across the Olymp on the left, then a Porsche on the right, and just about gets knocked into the right place. And then this brilliant move through the chicane at the Hungaroring. Patrick Kaprinski just seemingly either unaware or not a lot he could do there, because that Kessel Racing car of Dinin carrying so much more speed and just finding a much better racing line through turns 6 and 7. As we have a look here, that's the Vaporu Motorsport car coming up against Cipriani in the Il Barone Rampant, and there is a spectacular move of the day so far, but that's not hard to do. We'll see if that gets toppled so early on into this race. Just over an hour of racing to go in these GT3 and GT4 category top spec racing, and now it looks like we have a tasty battle going on here between Diaz Varela in the maroon and white Mercedes against Giuseppe Cipriani. This is for 12th overall, but crucially it is for 2nd in the AM category. Cipriani in that turquoise and black Lamborghini, coming under a little bit of pressure now from Diaz Varela, the Catalan bronze driver, a GT racer, lots of GT racing experience, trying to overcome Giuseppe Cipriani, the Italian GTOpen AM champion from 2019, so he knows his stuff. We'll have to wait and see how that battle unfolds with the team managers of car 63, Frederic Schandorf, car 19, Yuki Nomoto, that's the two VSR cars, and Loris Spinelli, that's our top 3, all being told to report to race control immediately.
Yeah, they've been naughty, presumably. I think it's mostly to do with the start, because obviously we saw Spinelli was under investigation for that starting procedure. But with these races being so long, you know, you can have a penalty and you can come back from it, especially with the driver change.
We've seen as well Loris Spinelli, who leads 4.4 seconds after 4 laps, that he's shown, especially in Belgium, he's got really great pace in this car, but it just hasn't come together for him at the moment. His first pole position as well, it looks like it's really coming together now for Spinelli. Unfortunately, Moiseev not alongside him. He's been replaced by Gianluca Girardi for this weekend due to Moiseev's COVID-19 diagnosis. We wish him a speedy recovery, but his teammate is certainly absolutely flooring it into this final sector. Really putting the foot to the floor there for Spinelli, trying to edge out that gap nearly up to 5 seconds now.
Yeah, incredible. Maybe he suspects he's going to get a penalty and he needs to open that gap. It's interesting that you said about like his previous performances. I remember the final chicane at Spa, you know, that was a corner he was kind of struggling with, and I think he had 1 or 2 incidents actually with other drivers, but a lot of these corners here are very much like Spa, you know, very twisty, very slow, but the Mercedes looks absolutely planted here, so they've definitely worked over that car between the 2 rounds.
No doubting his speed whatsoever. Let's see how the rest of this race unfolds. It's, Spinelli is sort of scooting away from it. Schandorf, though, never underestimate Frederic Schandorf in 2nd, bringing his teammate Nomoto along with him in 3rd. And then this is the battle we are looking at right now. Andy Soucek in the 77 Let the Racing Porsche, currently being hunted down by Ollie Milroy. Porsche versus McLaren in the International GT Open. Who will come out on top? But Milroy reading it in. How far behind is he? Half a second is the gap. This, the battle for 4th overall between a pro and a pro-am.
Yeah, and Soucek can't sit comfortably with McLaren on his back. However, he can sit comfortably because they had a team kind of discussion. They chose to use Soucek's seat in the car this weekend with seat inserts for his teammates, which is, you know, great news for Soucek's comfort in the car today.
Andy Soucek as well, a formidable racing driver. Don't ever rule him out of anything. The Formula 2 champion from 2009. He's done a lot of Blancpain World Challenge as well. The 35-year-old from Madrid, currently holding on to 4th as we look a little bit further down and focus on the GT Cup battle. It looks like at the moment, leading in GT Cup, it is this man here, Artellanos, in the number 26, Q1 by EMG Motorsport car. He'll hand that over to Marcise D'Armeco, but the Belgian team with the Polish drivers currently leading in GT Cup with about nearly 2 seconds between, no, I lie, it's not 2 seconds, it's 2 seconds between 2nd and 3rd, Anton Zuski and Blazek, and then it's actually a little bit more of a gap. Artellanos has about a 7-second gap between him and the 2nd Cup car in that category. And splitting them is the AM car of Stanislaw Jedlinski in the number 5 Olymp Racing. So Jedlinski still getting to grips, the older of the 2 Jedlinskis, and there is Jan Anton Zuski in the number 100 Alpine Motorsport car, currently in 2nd in the Cup Pro-Am category, but some way off the pole sitter who has been able to get away from it at the moment, and then chasing Anton Zuski down is Maciej Blazik here in the number 24 Porsche, the AMB Racing Team PTT Tech Support, the winners of the longest name on the grid. But clearly it's proven quite well, because Blazek and Lazowski are leading the championship with 37 points ahead of Jan Larison and Bas Schoen, who aren't here this weekend, so they're already automatically get a little more of a gap than they bargained for, I think. So great little battle heating up in GT Cup, in 2nd place overall. This battle raging on too. Ollie Milroy still unable to find a way through. And they say it's like Monaco here, but without the walls, because it is difficult to overtake. But as we've seen, it is not impossible.
Yeah, and you know, Monaco doesn't attract GTOpen, only the Hungaroring does, so clearly Hungaroring is the better and more glamorous track, and with all these fans here, and I must say many of them are very glamorous and very nice people, so you know, we've got the winning ticket being here this weekend with the nice weather as well.
We really do. It is so brilliant to have the Hungarian fans and allowed in, just a handful allowed in to see some of the racing action this weekend. Brilliant to have them along for the ride. Thank you for coming along to watch the International GTOpen, and we hope we can provide some spectacular racing. So far it is heating up nicely, and what is quite a common thread with these GTOpen races is that they tend to sort of have a frenetic start, have a little bit of a pause just while things and drivers get all their ducks in a row, and then it is absolutely mad, and things can change very, very quickly. Spinelli, though, able to eke out his gap even more, nearly up to 7 seconds now, ahead of Frederick Schandorf and Yuki Nomoto. There they are, the two Lamborghini Squadra Course official drivers, official Lamborghini manufacturer drivers now, after being signed up after the first GTOpen race, way back when, in France. Seems like a lifetime ago now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this season progresses so quickly because obviously we have the handicap systems in the pit stops, we have new drivers coming in, new teams. There's so much new stuff every round that it, you know, just builds and builds and builds, and then you get to this huge conclusion at the end of the season. Often ends a little bit dramatically, too dramatically potentially, but you know, in the middle of the season where teams are working on, they're even working on their 2022 programs. They'll be driving here today knowing that Hungaroring will very likely be on the calendar next season. And let's say you're in 6th place right now, maybe you know with your pit stop you're not going to be able to jump people ahead. You will just get as much data as you can from the car, as much data with both drivers, and learn as much as you can, so when you come back next year you're absolutely on it from the off.
A brilliant calendar we have here as well if we do return to Hungary, and that looks like Schandorf just overtaking Eugenio Pisani, or Stefano Pisani I should say, in that Cape Racing car. Eugenio Pisani, his teammate. Brilliant calendar here. Yes, we've already had Paul Ricard and Spa-Francorchamps. We're here in Hungary. We travel next to Imola at the end of July before heading to Austria for the Red Bull Ring, and then Monza in September before rounding out in Barcelona at the Circuit de Catalunya on the 23rd and 24th of October. So it'll all be over before we know it, but let's enjoy it right now as it stands, because it is really heating up this battle, because I think actually Andy Suchik is able to start to catch the cars in front of him, so we could have a four-way battle here for second place before we know it, with Frederick Schandorf at the head of this battle, and then it's Yuki Nomoto, Andy Suchik and Ollie Milroy, and Marcus Pavru just coming through the chicane in the background there. And I've noticed, Elliot, we need to do a bit of digging, because that stuff on the Honda NSX of Pavru and Renault Muller, currently lying in 6th, just behind this battle, has still got that stuff on it from qualifying. There's some sort of splatter on the windscreen, so we need to put our investigation hats on, and find out what that is, because I thought surely logistically they would have been able to remove that between qualifying and the race, but it's still there.
Maybe it was a particularly high velocity splatter of whatever it was that ended up on the windscreen. And because also it's so hot as well, it may have just kind of, whatever it is, just almost like melted onto it. Maybe it was someone's dinner or lunch. Well,
who knows? I don't think it's going to be helping with the aero though, but I don't think it'll be harming it either. The two Lamborghinis coming through your shot, followed by the Porsche and the McLaren. This time, Ollie Milroy a little bit closer, wants to think about the inside line, a bit too far back to make it work. We'll tuck back in through turn 1, 14 turns in total, 8 right, 6 left. 20 kilometers north of Budapest in the Hungaroring. We're actually in a little bit of a valley, so you can see 80% of the track from anywhere you stand. And after a few investigations, we're seeing some penalties come through, but they are just fines at the moment. So the top 3, which includes Schandorf, Nomoto and Spinelli, have all received a fine for breaching Article 33.3c of the sporting regulations. Now, unfortunately, I'm not sure what that is. So, Elliot, I'm really hoping that you can tell me what Article 33.3c of the sporting regulations is, and and we will bring that to you as soon as possible as we watch that stuff on the front of the windscreen of the Marcus Paveru Honda NSX. What have you got from me, Elliot?
I think the Article 33.3, as if I had the sporting regulations in my head and not on a PDF right in front of me, the approach at the start, full stop. Oh, there's a bit of misspelling here. Will be announced by the presentation of boards or the successive turning off of lights in case of starting procedure with 5-minute warning, 3-minute warning, 1 minute, 15 seconds. So the leading car has to have done certain procedures, including switching on yellow revolving lights, taking all team members off the grid apart from necessary marshals. We're seeing the stuff on the windscreen there again. And with a 1-minute board, cars must have their tyres out on the ground, the engines will be started with the driver in the car, and team personnel must abandon the grid before the 15 seconds board is shown. If the starting procedure signalled by lights is used, the fourth pair of red lights will be switched off. So clearly the top 3 cars, which have the best view of the starting light gantry,
they breached one of those.
Yeah, they've got this wrong on the 1-minute board, so it's that crucial 60 seconds before the race is live and underway. They've got wrong here.
It's interesting that though, because it is Loris Spinelli's first pole position, so perhaps a little bit of lack of experience there running at the front end of qualifying is affecting it, but also Shandorf and Nemoto, the VSR team, and we're seeing kind of the 7 actually, Ollie Milroy, the team manager's been told to report to race control.
Yeah, so this penalty is more to do with who you got on the grid and what you're doing to the car before the race starts. So because there's no sporting advantage, there's no sporting penalty, hence the fine, presumably to the teams rather than the drivers in the car, because I don't think you can choose to be a mechanic if you're a driver, staying on the grid. Although, Mr. Antonelli, who is currently in 11th place, second in the AM class, and only 1.5 seconds off the lead, he actually runs his team, as well as obviously driving for it as well.
And proving that he is running currently as the leading AM car. So a great job there, putting that number 14 where it has been all season so far at the front of the AM category, which has expanded here in Hungary this weekend to include Daniel Diaz-Varela for the Poro Motorsport and Stanislaw Jedlinski in the Olympic Racing Machines. This battle, though, continuing on. Unfortunately, doesn't quite look like Ollie Milroy can find a way past Souček. We see the two VSR Lamborghinis clattering the curbing through turn 6 and 7. That quick chicane, which is so difficult to get right. And we see quite a lot of cars cutting that chicane there, and a few incidents as well in some other racing series. Spinelli now with over 10 seconds the gap to Shandorf. That is a pretty dramatic gap he's been able to draw there. The overall leader currently also in the Pro-Am category, leading this race ahead of these two Lamborghinis, who are now sort of getting themselves into a little bit of a fight here. It looks like Nemoto might actually have a bit more speed on his teammate Shandorf, who's 4 tenths behind him at the moment. And there's the new Kane Motorsport entry, just sort of navigating their way through with all the GT3 cars, trying to get round the Alpine Eugenio Pisani entry, I should say. So that would be Peter Carpi in that car, just getting out of the way for the front runners. But there is Loris Spinelli on his own. 11 seconds to gap. Amazing stuff so far from the young Italian racer. With Nemoto, I think, on his teammate, that's the closest gap we're seeing, really. Just about half a second, 4 tenths of a second, half tenths of a second, not much in it between the two teammates. So perhaps we know those two are not afraid to go door to door. And Milroy now fallen 1.3 seconds back from Souček. So that close battle, unfortunately, hasn't prevailed. And don't forget, Milroy is perhaps under investigation for something, with his team manager being told to report to race control. We're not sure why yet, but we will bring that information to you as soon as we hear it from race control. But Loris Spinelli, currently, I say not putting a foot wrong. He has had a fine for a start procedure, but in terms of his race action, not putting a foot wrong in that 47 Pro-Am entry. The Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo, AKM by Antonelli Motorsport, leads the way with Spinelli at the wheel. A Lamborghini Trofeo champion, multiple champion actually, and GTOpen last year, 2 podiums, 1 in Spa, 1 in Monza, hoping to add to that in Hungary. Seemingly has the better at the moment of the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo cars. They've got 11 titles to their name in the last 5 years, so they are not an outfit to be messed with. But currently fighting over each other for second and third. But Souček and Milroy not able to really hang with them too much. You think the two VSRs fighting together might allow Souček to squeeze in and put himself into the fight for the final, the podium positions. But after that amazing win and breakthrough win for the Lettner Racing team, a breakthrough in Porsche after so many years of not being on the top step in the International GT Open, in fourth at the moment and third in the Pro category. But a little further down in the AM category, they are not disappointing. Giuseppe Cipriani fighting off Daniel Diaz-Varela. This is the, and then you see actually Antonelli's not too far in front of them. This could be the battle for first in the AM category. It's certainly the battle for second at the moment. But Poro Motorsport, who were in the GT Open Cup way back in 2012, 5 overall wins as SMP Racing for them. They drove to the GT Open Drivers' Championship win in 2014 and have had a few on and off returnings to GT Open, but now looks like Diaz-Varela did get alongside Cipriani briefly, but then both forced to take the racing line into the final corner. Can Cipriani hold him off on this main straight? He's got a decent run out there, some good traction from the Lamborghini in front. Lamborghini versus Mercedes, Il Barone Repant versus Poro Motorsport. Cipriani survives another day.
And going back to the GT Cup Open Europe Battle, 12.2 seconds now, so pretty much the same gap between Spinelli and Schandorf. You know, driver pit stop change, there's, at least with these cars, because these are our championship runners, so there's going to be around 10-15 seconds difference in the pit stops between each of these. Obviously, Souček will have the longest pit stop of this lead quartet, so potentially Spinelli could actually just extend his lead during the pit stop.
Very true, because of course, yes, you bring up the handicap situation, which adds another element to this racing, and it looks like around most of the teams have around a 75, 85 second handicap, depending on where they finish in the last race. That gets wiped out after 3 races, and we reset it, so to speak. But certainly, I'm just trying to find our leader, Loris Spinelli, who does look like potentially he'll have to have a 75 second handicap, but we'll get confirmation of that as well, because things can change very quickly in the GTO scene. But yes, the handicap, we've seen that really make or break races, and along with the driver change in the pit stop as well, it's all about how quickly can you do that. I remember being in the garage of the TF Sport Aston Martin team in Belgium, watching Michael Dinnan and Robbie Foley practice and practice and practice getting in and out of that Aston Martin, because they weren't used to an Aston Martin car. They're more used to a Ferrari like the one they're racing this time. So ever so slightly different changes in the way you get in and out of a car depending on the manufacturer. It's very fascinating. And eventually they were able to find those few tenths of a second, which can make a lot in this championship, especially in the pit lane when you have handicaps to consider as well.
Yeah, and we've seen, particularly in the driver changes, some drivers throw their seat inserts over the car, and because it's a new car, they don't quite realise the height of things. And I think it was one of the Audi teams where they tried throwing the seat and it just bounced off the roof and flew.
Good old Adam Carroll. Yeah. Unfortunately, he didn't quite get his throwing technique right. Unfortunately, not with us this weekend, focusing on other championship racing at the moment. And we've got a few cutting the chicane warnings as well for car number 8. That's Giuseppe Cipriani in that fierce battle in the AM category, which he's still currently in second, just ahead of Diaz-Varela and the number 47. Oh no, that's not the number 47. That's just the fastest lap 3 of number 47. So Spinelli still able to extend his lead at the moment. In GT Cup, Artejanos still heading the way. He's actually really pressuring the AM car in front of him. 0.4 of a second between Jedlinski and Artejanos, who heads the GT Cup Pro-Am field ahead of Anton Zuski and Blazek. And then comes the Peter Carpi Cup AM category, currently leading that 19th overall for him. And there is your overall leader after 15 laps, 13.4 seconds clear, Loris Spinelli.
And that's incredible. He's not actually lapping a GT Cup Open Europe car. He's now lapping GTOpen cars, fellow GT3 machinery. That's how quick he's going right now.
He really is on it. Absolute fastest lap after fastest lap. It's incredible what we're seeing here from Loris Spinelli and the gap he's pulled. I think that's one of the biggest gaps we've seen pulled at the start of a GT Open race this year.
Yeah, and he's actually been told, remember, flashing is not allowed at the lights, but he's lapping cars. He needs to get past them. And obviously, you know, with Mercedes together, and, you know, if you don't know if it's a GT3 or GT4 car behind you, he needs to inform them that he's coming through to lap them after just 15 laps. And, you know, it probably would be 15 seconds had he not encountered these slow cars ahead of him. We go back to the former Mason-coloured Lamborghini, and then we switch to the 74 Mercedes. So that's just a few seconds ahead of this battle. So they were actually on the rear of that car a few laps ago, but they've kind of broken back because they're battling amongst themselves.
And I'm also just having a look outside our window here as this battle in the AM category rages on. I'm seeing Robbie Foley, Michael Dillon's teammate at Kessel Racing in that Ferrari 488. Standing outside, helmet on, ready to go. So I think we might well be approaching our driver change. And as I say that, there it is on your screen, confirmed, the driver change is on. So expect the Kessel Racing Ferrari car in 8th to come in and see if they can try and maybe undercut those ahead and get a bit of clear air, a bit of fresh tyres, new driver, and a refill of fuel. And there they are. In comes Michael Dillon, the American racer, an all-American lineup there. They do have a 70-second handicap, though, that we will serve in the pit lane. They come into their pit box, and here comes Robbie Foley. They help each other out the door, and this is a great example of just how manic but also how structured it can be to get in and out of the car there. Seemingly looking untroubled so far. The two drivers help each other as well, because that's the easiest and the quickest way to do it. As we get the 777, Olymp car clatters its pit board, and the tyre change is on. Christian Kleen jumping in as well in the JP Motorsport car. They have an 80-second handicap. Patrick Kaprinski gets out after his first stint. So this is where we've got to start and make sense of who's where, plus handicaps and what drivers have come in and what drivers have come out. So we will keep you abreast of all of that at the moment. But the top three have yet to come in to do their pit stops. They've got a certain window to do that, as we see the Kessel Racing car from our commentary box just exiting pit lane. There it is. Now with Robbie Foley at the wheel. Those two drivers work together very closely in the GT World Challenge America Championship, so well versed in helping each other in and out of the car. And there is the first of the top three coming in. Frederick Schandorf comes in from second in the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing machine. Spinelli stays out. Michela Beretta will get in place of Frederick Schandorf there. Let's see how smooth their pit stop goes. All four tyres changed, and there's the driver change. So that is Schandorf out. Beretta getting in. Tap on the helmet from Schandorf. Meanwhile, Spinelli untroubled at the front. Will he come into the pits, or will he just try and hang on for as long as possible? Because he is handing over, of course, to someone who's a little bit inexperienced for this year, especially. It will be Gianluca Giraldi, who has replaced Alexander Moiseev. And it's the same impression as well for Andy Soucek, who hands over to Ben Barker. But Ben Barker also racing in the World Endurance Championship. He's a 12-hour of Bathurst winner in GT3 machinery. He's done Porsche Super Cup. The 30-year-old from Cambridge in the United Kingdom gets in for Andy Soucek in the Porsche Letna racing car. Loris Spinelli will have to hand over to Gianluca Giraldi, who is one of the more gentleman drivers, but has done a bit of World Endurance Championship as well. So this is potentially why Spinelli was just so desperate to try and keep some sort of gap to provide his teammate with his best chances possible, holding on to this lead. This is going to be very difficult now. Yeah, and there he is coming down to the first corner. So with pit stops being over 1 minute 10, he had already built 13-second lead. So that kind of cuts that down to almost like a 57-second
deficit of sorts when the pit stop comes into play. But he had the drivers ahead in his sights. He had Andy Soucek, he could see ahead of him. Well, not Andy Soucek anymore, Barker. So it's going to be very interesting. I think particularly with the GT Cup Open Europe cars as well, we're going to stay out a little longer, one or two of them, then that can really play into the hands of Spinelli right now.
We will keep an eye on that. I think we just saw one of the GT Cup cars as well having a little trouble with their door. I think that was Peter Carpi getting out the Mark Speakovus in the Kane Racing machine, as we now see the number 5 Olymp Racing car with Stanislaw Jedlinski at the wheel, getting out for Christian Korzeniowski, who will step into that machine.
And because some of the GT Cup Open cars have already pitted, that means they're now 2 laps down on Spinelli.
It's impressive stuff from the 25-year-old Italian, isn't it? Impressive stuff. It felt like in the interview after he got pole position, it really meant a great deal to him, actually. It's something he'd been really focused and trying hard to get. So, it's a real positive weekend so far for Loris Spinelli, who after 18 laps is leading by over 17 seconds.
Yeah, and he's actually just set the fastest lap of anyone on the previous lap, a 1:44.498. He was in the 1:45s prior to this.
He's not losing any tyre life either, which is interesting. He's really hounding these tyres, but perhaps he's just got the perfect setup at the moment.
Ooh, I'm going to have to check if this is a rear heavy circuit, because obviously the front axle has more load on it because it's a front engine car, which changes how you use the tyres and how they degrade. I don't think it does much to temperatures, but it certainly does for loads, and that potentially is what's helping him here. But I'll have to actually check this up for once.
You have to double check that one, but we're approaching 36 minutes to go of this race, and with the driver change on, I get the sense that Loris Spinelli will go right till the very last moment before he has to come into the pit lane. It looks like Nemoto and Milroy and Pavarud out of the top 4 are doing a similar thing. Marco Antonelli still leads the way in the AM category, ahead of Giuseppe Cipriani and Daniel Diaz-Varela, with that battle sort of calmed down a little bit. And Jan Seifert is the 11th overall. But I'm just looking at GT Cup Open Europe now, and as I say, that would beautifully go on board now with Dan Pijel, who makes his debut in the International GT Open. The Dutch driver, official Lamborghini young driver as well, racing in a Porsche, but seemingly acclimatizing well. He's the 2019 Ford Fiesta Sprint Cup champion, also doing the BMW M2 Cup alongside Lamborghini Squadra Super Trofeo Racing 2 this year. And comes in alongside Tomasz Magdziard in the GT Cup Open Europe. And out of that category, still Artur Janos leading the way ahead of Jan Anton Zuski. And then Mark Speakovos, who's now got into the AM Cup car. He's currently leading the way, 17th overall, as we see the new entry coming in. There it is, Mark Speakovos getting in. Peter Carpi getting out after a decent first stint from him on debut as well for Peter Carpi. The Hungarian racing driver on home turf hands over to his Italian teammate, an Italian GT champion racer as well.
And we're following the number 14 Mercedes Marco Antonelli. I think I have an answer now on why Mercedes has the advantage here. So it is a front limited circuit because it's got lots of long sweeping corners. And we've seen several drivers do this, and in other series as well, where the rear end is stepping out. And that's because the rear axle is, you know, there's more load on it, it's spinning. Whereas the front, because all the weight is at the front of the Mercedes, that means it's better balanced. That means it's less likely to swing out at the rear, and therefore you're looking after the tyres better as a result. Hence, he's gone 19 laps into a stint, and he's going a second faster than the people driving the Lamborghinis, the mid-engine cars. However, front engine, you know, isn't all advantages. There are some disadvantages to having this configuration of a car. But I don't have them in front of me.
Now, though, curiously, I didn't see Loris Spinelli's teammate there, ready to get in. So I'm thinking, although on our lists and all our data there is a teammate there, perhaps he is the sole driver, but we'll need confirmation of that, because normally you just see the driver there ready to go, but that wasn't the case for that car. So that was the number. Sorry, that was number 14. I've got myself confused there. That's the other AKM by Antonelli Motorsport car. Laura Spinelli is still out. So my apologies there. I got that one confused. I got excited.
And Michele Beretta's just set the fastest lap, 1 minute 44.4. So a 10th up on what Spinelli was doing on very old tyres compared to Beretta. He took over the 63 Lamborghini. So there's over a lap. There's 1 minute 32 between these two drivers. And we know a pit stop's going to be at least 70 seconds. So during this time, Spinelli could have actually opened his gap by another 20 seconds. Obviously, the handicap will factor into that. But it certainly looked like he's been the faster driver. In fact, we're seeing personal bests from every single car behind him, but he's still going faster than them.
Amazing stuff from Loris Spinelli there. It was his teammate I was watching on from the pit lane, the boss, Antonelli. Oh, in that car, Marco Antonelli, in for Lieberhauser this weekend, and Schulze in that 14 AM category car, while the Pro-Am AKM by Antonelli Motorsport leads the way from Spinelli. Also, I think Robbie Foley is able to close up the gap as well to Benjamin Barker, who now takes over from the Letna Racing car. As we see further back, the GT Cup cars start to come in. This is going to be really tight for the battle in the AM category as well. Giuseppe Cipriani comes in his Lamborghini. He was in a fierce battle, but he looks to be the last of the runners in the AM category to come in. So where does he feed out? He'll be up against now, because he's not changing drivers, so he'll feed out. But with Marco Antonelli and Jorge Font as well. So we'll see where he feeds out there. We'll keep an eye on that one, because the other AM drivers have both come in for their pit stops already. So where Cipriani feeds back in, we shall see.
Now we've got 4 laps between Spinelli and the GT Car Open Europe cars. They are on lap 18. He's on lap 22. So he's lapping them on average every 5.5 laps. That's astonishing, because this is a 1 minute 44 circuit, so every 5 minutes pretty much he's just overtaking them.
It is mightily impressive from Loris Spinelli. Yuki Nomoto staying out with him, Ollie Milroy and Pavaroud. The top 4 haven't changed drivers, and that's an incident there. We can see the tyre screeches there. That's the AM car, the number 14, the AKM by Antonelli Motorsport, with Marco Antonelli at the wheel, getting biffed off there by the Baporo Motorsport car, with Jorge Font at the wheel. So what on earth happened there? He just comes right into the back of him in the braking zone, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he wanted to go wide and then cut in on the inside, but Antonelli was already turning in, by which point, you know, smashes off the rear left of the car. But I think both got going again, and actually we saw Spinelli closing in on one of his rivals who he was about to lap. It does look like Beretta is potentially a lap down now. It
really does. That is extraordinary stuff, but that incident we just saw is going to be huge for the AM battle as well, because that's going to really ease the pressure on Cipriani, who is going to be able to take the lead, because it was Antonelli who had a solid lead out in front. But now Cipriani is leading that AM from Jorge Font, who I think will be under investigation for that. And that looks like Loris Spinelli really coming into the pit lane, full pelt there, before hitting the pit limiter. Looked like some smoke coming off the tyres there for a minute.
Yeah, that was full lock. So the car was still moving, but the wheels were, you know, just rubbing. But, you know, if you're taking off those tyres, you can do that to them in the final 10 seconds of their life. Very slow movement getting out of the car there, so he wasn't in a rush. Until we now got the number 19, Yuki Komoto. 20.7 seconds between these two cars when they enter the pits. Let's see what it is when they exit.
And a 75-second handicap as well for the number 19 Lamborghini. Loris Spinelli hands over. It's an 80-second, I should say, handicap as well for Inception Racing. But Loris Spinelli comes in from the lead, hands over to Gianluca Giraldi. We'll see where the 52-year-old from Torino can muscle that Mercedes to the end of the race. Ollie Milroy will get out of that Inception Racing car. Brendan Irebe will get in, the 42-year-old from America. And meanwhile, down at the Renault team, running the Honda NSX, it will be Jens Renner-Müller who gets in place of Marcus Pavaroud. And then we have, oh, and an incident in the pit lane as well. That's involving our race leader and also one of our drivers as well there as well. That could have been very scary. The number 47 being released there into the path of the Cup leaders. I think that was a little bit further down. Potentially Darmetko will be getting in that alongside Arthur Janos, but that is an unsafe release there. I think I have to say that looked a bit close for the AKM by Antonelli team.
And that 20-second lead to now 1 second, and the second Vincenzo Sospiri Lambo is going to go right round the outside. That's for the overall race lead. I think that's the Suchek Porsche as well. So
but look at the Lamborghini, he's been caught up behind one of the Cup cars, and this is going to allow Nemoto potentially, well, Nemoto's now out of that car. It will be Moulin to try and get the better of what was Shandov, now Beretta.
Yeah, so, blimey, so that was free wide. He's gone down to third. The Mercedes now come back up to first, then down to second. So he's now in second. 2 Vincenzo Sospiri Lambos either side of him. Traffic came into play there, but blimey, I mean...
Beretta now leads ahead of Giraldi and Baptiste Moulin in third, but I think as Giraldi is really struggling, he's really struggling with the traffic there as well, because there's a Cup car in the way, and that Giraldi just falling down as well after having come in. Spinelli doing an absolutely spectacular job on the lead. He's not being able to negotiate this traffic at all well. The Cup car's getting in his way, left, right and centre.
Not only getting in his way, Lizowski's just re-overtook him. Now, I'm not sure how the blue flag rule is applied if you unlap yourself against a driver. That's going to be serious if he has no, he doesn't need to let him back past now. He could just be stuck behind. This is very big. We saw it last year when one of the Ferraris went a lap down, but he had the pace to be ahead. Unsafe release. Oh, that's a great shame. They've lost a 20-second lead from that alone, and then they're likely to get a penalty for it as well.
He was told to be released, and very scary there as well for... that's the number 26 car, isn't it? The Cup car. So that would have been Darmetko out in the pit lane, having to avoid that car as Arthur Janos pulled in to change drivers. And in all that action, we've got a lead change. After all of Loris Spinelli's hard work comes undone in a matter of seconds. Now it is once again a double Lamborghini lockout for 1 and 2, with Michele Beretta leading the way from Baptiste Moulin. Gianluca Giraldi in third now. First of the Pro-Ams, just now going to have to look at his mirrors for Brendan Irebe. Further back in the AM category, Giuseppe Cipriani made use of an incident between the other 2 AMs. Giuseppe Cipriani, who we're watching now, leading the AM category, 11th overall, made use of the incident of Holme Font going into the back of Marco Antonelli in the penultimate corner, which biffed them both off the roads. And now in the Cup Pro-Am category, it is Marcij Darmetko who leads the way ahead of Mateusz Lizowski.
And Barker has just passed Brendan Irebe for 4th place. Now, this leading Lamborghini, Beretta, pitted before Nemoto and Spinelli did, so his tyres are already up to temperature, which is why he was so much better through the traffic, and why he's already opened up a gap of 2.1 seconds, comfortably faster than both of these cars in clear air as well. So potentially that was the winning move, pitting a lap earlier.
I don't think Loris Spinelli had many other options, unfortunately, for him, but it looks like Ben Barker might be able to find his way with the podium, now just 3.2 seconds back from Giraldi, who's fallen a further 4.6 seconds back from 2nd place now. So unfortunate there for the AKM by Antonelli Motorsport team, who looked so good for so long, but now with less than half an hour to go in this race, the VSRs have found their way to the top 2 steps of the podium provisionally. Can they hold on to it? This is the International GTOpen. Anything can happen, and it can happen quickly, as we have just seen. Beretta leads from Moulin. Giraldi's in third, ahead of Barker now, who's chasing him down, and that Lettner Racing Porsche. He's in for Al-Faisal Al-Zubair. Brendan Irebe is 5th. Renaud Müller 6th. Foley is in 7th, ahead of Jan Safer. Baj in the 777 Olymp Racing car is 9th, ahead of Christian Kleen, holding on to the top 10 just in front of the AM battle, which involves Cipriani, Font, Antonelli and Korzeniowski. Then we get to the Cup teams, and it's Darmetko leading the way in the Cup Pro-Am category, ahead of Lizowski to a Nicky Pijel, and then Speak of Us in the Cup AM categories ahead of Pisani, who rounds out the 20-strong field in the International GTOpen. The battle for third, though, heating up nicely.
Yeah, and Ben Barker, he only he's driven a lot of Porsches, but he only saw his car on Friday. And he got in and they did the seat arrangements. Him and Andy were debating, like, do we go seat inserts? Do we squeeze into one another's seats? They worked very hard on this seat optimization setup because, it's very hot. Drivers can use the aircon here, and it is pretty critical to use the aircon. But, you've got to be comfortable in the car when you're going over a stint, because the car changes its drivability when the tyres change, when the fuel level goes lower. So if you're not comfortable at the start, it's very unlikely you're going to be comfortable at the end of your stint either. So critical you get that kind of stuff done in practice and qualifying.
Really chucked in at the deep end for Ben Barker, but showing his worth. It's that rear wing just moving under braking there. Really sort of shaky there, but really hounding and reeling in Giraldi. Just under a second now from the podium for Ben Barker. Deputising for Al-Faisal Al-Zubair, who unfortunately couldn't make this race due to illness. He's watching on the TV at home though, so we wish him a very speedy recovery, and I'm sure he'll be very pleased to see Ben Barker doing a very good job in place of him, fighting for the podium now. You've got to be careful because Brendan Irie was watching this battle just behind, so it could well be a three-car battle very quickly. There is confirmation of car 93. So that's currently in the hands of Jorge Font, but that was Daniel Diaz Varela back in the AM category for his incident in going into the back of Marco Antonelli, which saw Antonelli drop out from the lead of the AM category. So that's a 5-second penalty for him. That will be added to his race time.
He is very much under pressure now from Barker. That lap traffic definitely got in the way coming out of turn 4 into turn 5 uphill. The Mercedes should have the advantage here because it's a very long sweeping curve. But you know, generally it just looks like Barker's a more comfortable driver right now. Hit the brakes, coming into the turn 6-7 chicane, riding as much curve as they can. I think the Porsche again was a little quicker there, but you know, you can't overtake through this final sector, so unless you're going to do something magical.
Barker all over the back of him, and I think Giraldi might just be thinking they're still the leading Pro-Am car, but Brendan Irie is right behind Barker, who is in the Pro category. So as soon as Barker potentially gets past Giraldi, that could unlock Giraldi into the clutches of the Inception Racing Brendan Irie car, who probably fancies a go at a Class Pro-Am win. But at the moment, that Mercedes just about holding on from the Porsche, and the McLaren lurking behind. Meanwhile, the two Lamborghinis up front, just following each other very nicely. Just under a second between Beretta and Moulin in the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing green Lamborghinis. What can Barker do? He's right up behind. He pulls out to the inside line. How late on the brakes can he go? Will Giraldi give him space? Yes, he does. Nice move there from Ben Barker up into the podium places now, with all eyes set on Baptiste Moulin in the Lamborghini in front of him. And Giraldi, though, I don't think his day is going to get any better. Goes a little bit wide through 3. And that's going to fall into the clutches. As we see another battle with the AM cars, there is bodywork damage as well. That is the Giuseppe Cipriano Vapore Motorsport car, who just carries too much speed. Driver in top spot, I think I was Font battling with. And here he comes, a little check over. I think there was a bit of bodywork that flew off. The front right there, you can see, is a bit crumpled in as well. Having a look at the tyres.
2 times that car has now made contact with another, but it mostly looks cosmetic apart from the lights, and given you're not going to be using the lights in this hot Hungarian summer, I think they should be fine to take that car back on track. But of course they will check it, because you don't want to risk, you know, thinking it's all good and then you've actually got mechanical damage, which could be costly. The 2 Lamborghinis now, 8 tenths between them. This is, you know, you want to win it for your team, but you also want to win it for yourself. Which one would you go for right now?
Oh, it's tough. I mean, these guys are team players. They've been about 8 tenths of a second for the last few laps now. Unfortunately, that's Font's day done. He's not happy about that at all, by the looks of it. Jorge Font out of this race for Vapore Motorsport. Shame coming back to GTOpen, but back up front. I mean, if you look at the championship standings, it is Frederic Chandov and Mikel Beretta who are ahead of them. But at the moment, it still feels like it's early on. 6 tenths now, the gap. Perhaps Nomoto and Baptiste Moulin in that number 19 car, showing perhaps a bit of better pace in these final stages. But I'm not going to bet any money on it. There is Nomoto in the background watching on.
I think the car behind will try and go for this win, because with the handicaps you get for tomorrow, you probably won't win the race. So this will be your one opportunity of the weekend to do it. And you know, there's no point in just sitting in second if you know you do have the pace to try and go for it. I'd still try and be nice to my teammate on track if I was making a move, but I'd try and get ahead as soon as possible as well.
Well, we know they all get on as well as friends in the paddock and the pit lane, and actually they came together a little bit with a little bit of argy-bargy, bodywork to bodywork, door to door in Belgium, so they're not afraid to go toe-to-toe in race trim. It's just whether Moulin can get alongside Beretta. That's the key round here. You can follow someone for ages at the Hungaroring. It's being able to just get that nose alongside their rear tyre and then power your way through and force them into a mistake. And right now, Beretta is putting that Lamborghini in all the right places after 29 laps.
Yeah, and the Lamborghini is such a wide car as well. So of all the cars you'd want to overtake, it's the very hardest to. And at the same time, the car ahead knows the strengths and weaknesses of the car behind. They probably go through each other's data as well. So, you know, and we're back with the Honda with the confusing windscreen issue. You know, send your answers on the back of a postcard if you know what this is, because we've been completely confused by this. Dare I say it's some kind of growth? It looks like something from a science class. That's what I think.
A petri dish.
Yeah.
Well, it's clearly not affecting Jens Renault Miller or Marcus Pavaro. It's Jens Renault Miller in that car at the moment, who is now all over the back, unfortunately, of Gianluca Giraldi, who is coming under pressure now. It looks like he might be dropped down to third in the Pro-Am category if Muller can get past him for second. This is the battle for fifth overall, but it is second in the Pro-Am. Brendan Eyrie leading the Pro-Am class currently. Jens Renault Miller sitting behind for the time being, and I just don't think Giraldi has pace behind this battle for A8. Confirmation there, this is the battle for fifth overall, but second in the Pro-Am class. And this is the moment where it's just so difficult to overtake, isn't it?
And this is the corner actually where Jens Renault Miller has been warned for, and we see it again. You know, track limits, he's cutting the curbs there at that chicane to try and gain an advantage, but you know, race control will probably consider that a bit too much of an advantage if he does that any more times.
But I also said that was a difficult corner to overtake at. Funnily enough, Marcus Pavaro in this exact same car pulled off an absolutely spectacular overtake on Michael Dinnan right at the very start of this race to get through on the exit of the chicane. So perhaps Jens Renault Miller saw that on the TV, fancied life, and I want to go at that as well. But he's closer this time around to the back of Giraldi. Giraldi not taking as tight of a line through the penultimate corner into turn 14. Can he sling it in with enough speed? What can Jens Renault Miller do? Try and get his best exit as he can. Foot to the floor, down the back straight, main straight, and try and use as much slipstream as you can from these cars. The Mercedes versus the Honda, the sole Honda on this grid as well. Renault Racing really coming on race by race, improving their pace.
And we're at the back of the field, we've got the leading but only GT Cup Open Europe Pro-Am entry, along with the, or Am entry should I say, with Eugenio Pisani, who is in the Pro-Am class. They are 8 tenths apart. They're both getting track limits warning, probably because they're pretty much going wheel to wheel around this track. We're not following them at the moment, but you know, if that does go sour, then for Mark Speakerwas in the 45 car, that loses him a win automatically if he goes off track. So he wants to keep it clean. He can afford to lose position. And actually, our timing screen, you can see right now, shows no gap at all. So, so 1 second to the class leader, but he must be alongside Peugeot as well. It's all going crazy. It's 12 minutes to go, but battles everywhere still.
It really is, and that battle at the front, yeah, just over a second now. So perhaps Moulin not able to hang with Schandorf, and look at that, another 5-second time penalty. This time, as we suspected, to the car in front of this one, the 47, the AKM by Anthony Motorsport, was in the hands of Lawrence Spinelli, now in the hands of Gianluca Giraldi. A 5-second time penalty to be added to the race time for that incident in the pit lane, which could have been very dangerous actually, especially with the driver out in the middle of the pits too. So that will be added to his race time at the end for the AKM by Anthony Motorsport team, and we do have another incident between cars. Number 8, that is Giuseppe Cipriani, and 93, that is the Boporo Motorsport car, which we saw pulling itself into the wall and then into the pit lane. That will be investigated after the race.
Ben Barker is just at his personal best lap, 1 minute 45.4. That's a second faster than the leading Lamborghini right now. We're following those two. They're 7 tenths apart. Barker's 9 seconds back with 11 minutes to go. Maybe a little too much. but he is going faster than them. So, you know, if there's a safety car as well, everything could change.
11.5 minutes, 8.5 seconds. Could Barker try and get himself into this battle for the win, which is currently solely between Beretta and Moulin. Moulin sort of ebbing and flowing in gap times, now 0.8 of a second behind Moulin, behind Beretta. And it's like synchronized swimming almost between these two. That recognizable livery from anywhere. And Vincenzo Spirit Racing incredibly happy with their 4 drivers all being signed up straight away to the Lamborghini official program of manufacturer drivers. So they love this car, they love this team, and they're going well at the moment. Beretta.
And they were separated by 0.001 second in that last sector. So these two are really, really close on pace. Maybe it is almost impossible for Moulin to pass because the pace is just so close. There's no way he can be fast in the car, and only just as fast. Although he is defending.
They'll be desperate though, because so far it is the leading car here of Mikel Beretta and Frederick Schandorf, who have 2 wins to their name. And the best that Yuki Namoto and Baptiste Moulin have got is 2 second places each time to their teammates. So they'll be trying to not make that a triple, but it just does look like Schandorf and Beretta have a slight advantage when it comes to pace, and always better off to be in front. 0.6 of a second now though between the top 2.
Yeah, and it looks like there might be an incident at the back between Pisani and Speakerwas, because Speakerwas was ahead, but he dropped 5 seconds in sector 2, and now he's behind, and they were battling very, very closely for the last few laps. So potentially that change of position came about from an incident. Hopefully we'll get some footage of that later on.
Matthias Lazowski currently heading the way in the Cup Pro-Am battle ahead of Marcige Darmeco, Dan Pichel, and then it is Mark Speakerwas, the sole AM category entry, down in 19th overall, and last of the runners ahead of Font, who is out of this race in that Apollo Motorsport car, sharing that with Daniel Diaz Varela. But back up front with just over 9 minutes to go, Beretta leads.
And 7th place, Rory Foley is only a 10th of a second ahead of Carol Baz right now. That's the 25 Ferrari and the 777 car. So hopefully we'll pick up that battle as well. That's very, very close, and that's actually for, well, it's 2 different classes they're in.
As you see, as you say, it happens. Unfortunately, Baz through on, well, fortunately for Foley, Baz through on Foley. Change of position there, 2 different classes, Pro versus Pro-Am. The 777 Olymp Racing car has gone through on the 25. Kessel Racing in the battle for 7th position. The yellow and black Mercedes versus the red and white Ferrari. The Mercedes winning out on this occasion as our leading car, Michele Beretta, coming up across the 100 out of the Motorsport car. A little bit of traffic management going on there. I think that may just sort of halt the battle ever so slightly, but they are now both through our top 2. But traffic management proving huge this weekend so far, and this is how the Olymp Racing car did it. Nicely down the inside, a little bit up on the curb. Foley saw it coming, not too much more he could do. A little bit of steering, changing angle there, and through goes the 777.
And the 2 Lamborghinis are going side by side now. They've come into a lap. Porsche, they're both going to try and go to the left of it. I don't think there's enough room to go 3 into 1. They're touching into the turn 6-7 chicane. The Porsche gets a bit locked up as well. So Moulin's still behind Beretta. Beretta kept the lead there, but he knows that he's going to go for the move. So coming through this fight, he's still right on his tail. I think he's going to set up a pass at the final corner here.
A statement of intent there from Baptiste Moulin. Unfortunately, coming in proper, that Speakerwas, the last of the runners at the moment in the Cup category, who actually nearly loses it on the exit there. But let's focus on the battle for the lead now, because it is really heating up with just over 7 minutes to go, and 0.3 of a second less than that between the top 2. Both Vincenzo Sospiri racing cars in the Lamborghini Huracan. Beretta, after 34 laps, will cross the line to start lap 35. Ahead of Moulin. Barker as well, lurking in 3rd, a bit further back though, but that was a good exit from Moulin. Can he carry enough to try and help with a bit of tow on the back of his teammate? Beretta in front, Moulin behind. Into the braking zone for turn 1. Beretta takes a slightly tighter line. Moulin wider on entry, more speed on exits. Lights are on, no flashing allowed though. Race control will warn you about that for the time being. Moulin not able to get ahead of his teammate for the lead of this race. 0.3 of a second though between the two.
And they've got one of the GT Cup Open Europe Porsches up ahead. Not a very good corner to catch him. Pretty much the same corner as last lap. They caught up the Porsche. He's allowed one of the cars to go down the inside, coming through turn 5. Will he allow the next one? He does. So both cars through cleanly. Not close enough to make a move into turn 6. Beretta.
He's lost time actually.
Yeah, cut the chicane as well.
Eugenio Pisani was the driver getting out of the way there in the 44 Kane racing car. A lot better than his teammate Speakerboss did. But that has eased this battle ever so slightly now, because you can see for yourself that Moulin was nowhere near as close as he was the lap before. And Speakerboss actually getting told off for that manoeuvre that saw our top two getting very close, being told he must respect the blue flags, but it was a bit hard to get out of the way. They're a tricky part of this narrow and twisty track the best of times, but these are wide GT3 cars. It's difficult. As we come to the end of another lap here at the Hungaroring. For round 3 of the International GT Open, Beretta leads the way from Moulin. Barker is in 3rd on debut in place of Al-Faisal Al-Zubair. The nice battle there for GT Cup heating up as well.
Did they just make an overtake? That might have been Dan Pitcher who passed Darmetko.
We'll try and get a view of that as well, but some GT Cup action going on further back in the pack as Barker now 4 seconds behind. So just in front of them though is this epic GT Cup battle going on. That's one of the Q1 by EMG Motorsport cars. So that could be either, I think that's probably Darmetko and Pijul having a battle further back in the pack, getting out of the way though. So that battle has eased for the time being. Pijul did get ahead of Darmetko into turn 1. So Pijul now into 16th, 15th overall. That is 2nd in the Cup category, and just in front now of the overall leaders, as you can see here. Will they get out of the way in a good place? This is in the best of place early on the brakes. Blue flags are waving both Lamborghinis through the chicane. They go. 4 minutes on the clock to go. Beretta, Moulin and Barker, your top 3. Into this tight and twisty sector now. Difficult to overtake here. It's all about trying to set up the move into maybe the penultimate corner if you're close enough, but probably more likely just to try and get as much speed as you can through the final corner, turn 14, onto the main straight to get side by side into the heavy braking zone. We shall see. Just look like Moulin's just a little bit too far behind at the moment. Jan Seifert has come into the pit lane, so a problem there for the HB Racing International team, who wheel that car back into the garage. Looks like their day is done. A problem there for the number 17 Lamborghini, but the number 63 and 19 Lamborghinis enjoying the best of it. 3 minutes just about to go. And start 37 laps. And
there's Ben Barker. He's only 3 seconds behind now. He was 9 seconds behind, I think, 8 minutes ago. So rapidly closing in. He could factor into this lead battle, definitely. And Jens Renault Moller still 4 tenths behind Garaldi, who is in the Mercedes. Hopefully we'll see them come past us on the pit straight. A few car lengths between them, so I don't think he's going to line up a move. It's getting close though.
I did say Barker could haul himself into this fight for the lead. I did say it. It's on record as well. So Beretta leading the way though, 6/10 of a second. The gap now 3 seconds down between Barker and Moulin. So while these two battle it out, that really is allowing Barker to come in and try and put himself into this fight. 2.5 minutes now. Irene leads in the prime category ahead of Giraldi and Renault Muller, 6 tenths behind him. So that could be a tasty battle towards the end as the Moulin Lamborghini clatters the curbs. And then in the AM category, Cipriani leads the way from Antonelli. And then in the Cup Pro-Am, it is Lazowski ahead of Pijul and Darmetko. Top 3 in that.
You know what? I think Jan Seifert's coming to the pits and he's not going to go out again.
Yeah, I did say he's been reeled back into the pit lane. Their day is done. So, unfortunately, retirement for the HB Racing International team. But Benjamin Barker on debut, 3 seconds still behind Moulin. 1.2 seconds now. Moulin is behind Beretta. So, unfortunately, Moulin looks to have lost a bit of time on that last lap, and he's running out of time to do it as we start the next lap, which could well be our last two laps. It is the final lap. It is confirmation. Beretta starts the final lap with 1.2 seconds clear of Moulin. Barker holding on for 3 seconds behind. So unless Beretta and Moulin come close together in these final stages.
And it looks like Jens Renaud Muller could get a run on Giraldi. They were lapping 2 GT Cup Open Europe cars coming down the pit straight. Muller potentially getting alongside. We need to switch cameras right now because this is for the podium positions in the Pro-Am class right now.
Jens Renaud Muller currently occupying 6th overall, just 0.4 of a second behind Giraldi in the 47 AKM by Antonelli Motorsport car, which is in 5th. That battle going right to the end for 2nd in the Pro-Am class. But it will be Beretta coming into the final sector of this lap, negotiates the curbing well, as does his teammate. 1.7 seconds. Barker's got it down to 2.7, but I fear it may be a little bit too late for Ben Barker, but he solidifies his podium position. So not a bad job, not a bad day at the office for Ben Barker, after being subbed in very last minute. Coming out into the final sector now. Coming through. Beretta through 12 into the penultimate corner of 13. 1.6 seconds the gap. I think he's negotiated it and managed it well. Has Michele Beretta. Frederick Schandorf started in this car, couldn't quite match the early pace of Loris Spinelli, but after the pit stops, it all changed, and Beretta will cross the line for Vincenzo Sospiri Racing to take the win alongside Frederick Schandorf. Their teammates, Baptiste Moulin and Yuki Nomoto, will come home right behind them in 2nd, and it will be Ben Barker on debut who brings that Porsche Lettner Racing car home for 3rd alongside Andy Soucek. It will be Brendan Irieb who just about crosses the line to take the Pro-Am win. That is 4th overall, ahead of our overall race leaders for so long, but unfortunately they've been pipped at the very last minute potentially on our timing screens. Renaud Muller able to get 2nd in the Pro-Am category, ahead of Baj and Giraldi falling down to 4th in the end of that. Let's go and look at our AM class as well. Cipriani, it looks like he's got the win sewed up there, but it is all happening in the Cup category as well. This is our leader though in the Pro-Am Cup category. Lizowski in the number 24 Porsche, the A&P Racing team, PTT Tech Support, the Polish team with 2 Polish drivers. It will be Lizowski at the wheel, but it was Maciej Blazek who started that car. They will extend their lead in the championship as well for them, picking up a nice haul of points as they come across the final corner in that Porsche in the GT Cup Open Europe category. It will be Maciej done. It will be Lizowski ahead of the pack in GT Cup alongside Blazek. And Speak of Us will be the last of the runners to cross the line, but 39 laps. And I couldn't have predicted that at the end, but it all changed very quickly. Once again, your race 1 winners in the International GT Open are the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing duo of Beretta and Schandorf, just ahead of their teammates Moulin and Nomoto. Andy Soucek and Ben Barker round out the overall podium. Ollie Milroy and Brendan Irieb take the win in the Pro-Am category, ahead of Renaud Muller, Pavarou, Jedlinski and Baj. Unfortunately, Spinelli and Giroud don't even leave with a podium after all that hard work undone. 10th overall, but winning in the AM category, Giuseppe Cipriani for the Il Barone Rampant team, just ahead of Marco Antonelli and Jedlinski and Korzeniowski for the Olympic Racing team. Blazek and Lizowski, who we saw there, came across for the win in the Cup category too. Just ahead of Jan Seifert, who unfortunately had to pull in towards the end, and that's what it does though to the championship standings. Frederick Schandorf and Michele Beretta extend their lead, but not by much, just 4 points between the top 2. Andy Soucek with 53 points, still hunting them down. Baptiste Moulin and Yuki Nomoto in 3rd. Pulling into top spot though in that recognisable green Lamborghini. Last couple of revs there for Michele Beretta. Frederick Schandorf will open the door to greet his teammate. And a job well done there from the VSR duo to take their third win of the season, having started from second on the grid. Their teammates take their third second place, which will play on their minds. It wasn't as if Moulin wasn't hounding them every step of the way. Unfortunately, couldn't get it done there. And there, though, a job well done for third place man Ben Barker. Last minute call up to replace an unwell Al-Faisal Al-Zubair alongside Andy Soucek, and he brings the car home in third with some valuable points gained for the Lechner Racing team. Happy days and a job well done all round. And hard work as well for these drivers. It's not easy out there in the Hungarian sun. Very hot and humid. Some of the toughest racing conditions here, especially when you have a head of hair like that as well. Michele Beretta looking very happy though. Let's take a look at how the top three looked out on track. In third, Soucek and Barker in the Lechner Racing Porsche coming through the chicane. They couldn't quite match, unfortunately. Moulin and Nemoto for VSR, who came so close, battled all the way to the very end, but couldn't quite overcome their teammates. Beretta and Schandorf are your race winners. Let's hear from them now.
And so it is the third win of the season for Frederick Schandorf and Michele Beretta on a very warm afternoon here at the Hungaroring. Frederick, how was the start?
The start was good, and start was as planned. We managed to do a good job, the team as well, and Yuki came up to P3, so we could a bit control our race when I was second, so it's really good, and hopefully not the last win we get here. So.
And Michele, you just had your teammate behind you, but it looked like there was some pressure.
Yeah, it was. I was out a little bit earlier in the pit window, so I was trying to push as quick as I could in the first few laps to try to make the step forward. Frederick did a good job to keep the pace. It was not an easy race with the heat, and so I started with used tire, started with a better tire, so I think we managed a good race, and also they did a good race, also our teammates, and we stayed like this at the end of the race.
And it's all good for the championship, so yeah. P1 again now.
Yeah. Yep.
Podium, enjoy, well done.
Race one in the International GTOpen in Hungary looked a little bit like this. Loris Spinelli got underway with a great start from pole position ahead of Frederick Schandorf in the Lamborghini, who had to cover off Andy Soucek, who fancied to go down the inside. That all allowed Yuki Nemoto to try and find his way around the outside in the second of the green Lamborghinis. They all just about made their way through the first corner. Unfortunately, a few of the GT Cup cars coming together in the background there, but managing to biff their way through together at the exit of turn one. This brilliant move came early doors from the Kessel Racing machine through on the JP Motorsport car. Then the pit stops occurred, and after a solid job, Kessel Racing on debut, Michael Dillon and Robbie Foley swapped round in the pit stops, which is where all the drama began to unfold, as we saw as well after the battle with the AKM by Antonelli Motorsport car driven by the boss being clouted out of the way by the Baporo Motorsport team, who then came a cropper in the pit lane as well. Incidents for the leading drivers as well with a GT Cup car. That put them on the back foot. And then the 47 was losing positions left, right and centre after Loris Spinelli came in to change driver alongside Gianluca Giraldi now in that car. Then we had another battle in the AM category between Cipriani and the Baporo Motorsport car finding the wall, but no one could match once again their third win of the season. Frederick Schandorf and Michele Beretta for Vincenzo Sospiri Racing win out ahead of their teammates Yuki Nemoto and Baptiste Moulin. And in third place came the Lechner Racing squad of Andy Soucek. And in place of Al-Faisal Al-Zubair, Ben Barker. So a frenetic race from start to finish there, with strategy really playing a key part in it. And absolutely gutting, I imagine. I'm not sure how Laura Spinelli will be feeling after that, after putting in an amazing effort. Not even to stand on a podium in class will be a tough one to swallow for him. These drivers, though, will be pleased with their work. On the right-hand side, the two Letna Racing Porsche drivers, Andy Suchek and Ben Barker. On the far left will be the Vincenzo Sperry Racing drivers of Yuki Namoto and Baptiste Moulon. On the top step of the podium will be Frederick Schandorf and Michele Beretta.
Well done, congratulations, gentlemen.
A round of applause all round there for your overall winners and overall podium. Pick up of the trophy and a smile and wave. And a lot of analysing, I think, overnight as well from all of these three, who, even though they find themselves on the podium, will be wanting more for race 2 tomorrow. I think Ben Barker might be one of the happiest men up there as well, but quickly gets out the way before the champagne spray, I think, because that might be his one and only race suit. Andy Suchek, though, struggling to open it, gets it open, and a nice spray over the Vincenzo Sperry Racing boys. Yuki Namoto getting a plentiful spray there. All the VSR drivers, good friends on and off the track, fair racing. And Andy Suchek joining in as well, just wanting to maybe get a bit of insight how that Lamborghini drives compared to the Porsche. But it is a Lamborghini and a Porsche who lock out the top 3 in the overall standings. We'll get the Pro-Ams out next. Leading the category for that, Karol Baj and Jedlinski in the 777 car for Olymp Racing, who make their debut in the GTOpen for 2021 with a great run to 3rd, just behind Jens Renault Müller. But it was Brendan Irebe in the Inception Racing McLaren who took overall class honours in Pro-Am category to take the win. See that beautiful slow motion shot coming through the chicane there. And the Inception Racing team out to watch their hard work come to fruition. A quick turnaround, more champagne and more trophies there. First up to collect them is 3rd place. That will be Karol Baj and Marcin Jedlinski. The all-Polish driver lineup, and on the far left, it will be Jens Renault Müller and Markus Pavarud, and in centre stage will be Ollie Milroy and Brendan Irebe, your Pro-Am winners. And a quick lift of the trophy. Ollie Milroy just getting ready with the champagne there, ready to spray his teammates there. I think he's quick with that one. It looks looks like the Olymp Racing team want to run off quickly, and only Ollie Milroy is up for it. Oh no, Brendan Irebe gets involved as well. A nice spray for the 2 Inception Racing drivers. I'm sure they want to cool down as well after the heat of that race. Don't forget the trophies. Don't forget the champagne. You left a bottle. 1 bottle left, and great job, well done to our Pro-Am drivers. And we'll get the next podium out very shortly, just waiting in the drivers' room before they head out to the podium. The next podium will be the AM drivers. So in 3rd place will be the number 5 car. So that is the other Olymp Racing entry, with Stanislaw Jedlinski at the wheel ahead of alongside, I should say, Christian Korzeniowski, who will take to the bottom rung of the podium. There they are in that beautiful orange and black Mercedes. Pleased to get to the end there and nip a podium right in the clutching stages as well. Job well done there for the Polish outfit. Just behind, Marco Antonelli. Sole driver in that car, very solid job. Biffed off the road at one stage, still manages to come home in 2nd, and Giuseppe Cipriani very much benefiting from Antonelli being forced off wide. And unfortunately we have a little bit of A little bit of a breakage there for one of the trophies for Giuseppe Cipriani. I think he's managed to piece it back together there. But it will be Giuseppe Cipriani who stands on top as your AM winner. Well, thank you very much for joining us here for the International GT Open. Race 2 gets underway tomorrow. It all starts with qualifying 9 o'clock local time. I hope you can join us then.